So, um, okay, so let's see where we up to over here. Um, I have 20b. In the middle of the page, starting with Mar Ukva Shochiv Le Bar Chamuha. This is a question. Do you need to participate in the mourning of your spouse? So let's see over here. So what the case over here was that Mar Ukva, that was the rabbi, Shochiv Le Bar Chamuha, the son of his father-in-law, died. That means his wife's brother, basically. Okay, in other words, a wife's brother is his father-in-law's son. And of course, his wife was sitting Shiva, had to sit Shiva for her brother. So Mar Ukva, being married to the deceased sister, he thought Lemesiv Alei Shiva Ushloishim, to sit for him 7 days of mourning and also the Shloshim. Ol Rav Huna Legabe. So Rav Huna went up to him and Ashkiche, he found him. I guess maybe he saw that he was getting ready to do the mourning or he was sitting on a low stool. Omar Lei, so Rabbi Huna said rhetorically to Marukva, Tsud Naiso Bois Lemechel, do you want to go eat now the mourner's meal? Tsud Naisa is the mourner's meal. Rashi says, Suuda is the ovel, that's the meal of the mourner. In other words, you consider yourself a mourner, or today we would call it a Sudas Havra, the Suda that you give, that's the first meal, or maybe this was another meal, but he says, Lo Omru Likvoid Ishtoi. Our rabbis, when they say that in honor of your wife, you should participate when she is mourning, Ella Chomov V'chamoisoi. That would only apply to your father-in-law and to your mother-in-law, but not to your wife's brothers or sisters, other people. Only your wife's father or mother, you should participate. But this is your wife's brother. It's your in-law's son. You don't have to participate. How do we see this? The Tanya, because we have a brisa. We learned this in a brisa. The brisa says, "Mi shemeis chomov oy chamoisoi." Ones whose father-in-law or mother-in-law died, so inevitably his wife is in mourning for her mother or her father. So the husband cannot expect his wife to do things that she would do when she's not in mourning, such as the husband expects her to use makeup, to comb her hair, but Einay Rashoyi, since she's in mourning, he doesn't have the right, lokoif es ishtoi, to force his wife, liyos koicheles, v'liyos poikeses, so that she should use makeup and that she should comb her hair. In other words, a husband has the right to expect. I don't want you to go home now and tell your wives this is the expectation. He has a right to expect that his wife should be looking beautiful. And but when she's in mourning, he cannot force her to be kecheles and pekeses. Elo koife mitosoi v'noig imo avelus. But on the contrary, he too should bend over his bed. That's the sitting place, like sitting on a low stool. It's called kviya samita, to bend over the bed. And he conducts himself with mourning with her. So we're talking about a father-in-law and a mother-in-law that you are to be part of what she does. Not only can you not expect her to beautify herself when she's in mourning, but you have to be part of her mourning. V'chein hi shemeis chomia oy chamoiso. And the same thing would be for the woman when his parents die, her in-laws, her mother-in-law, or her father-in-law. So she also eino rasha liyos koicheles v'liyos pekesa. She has no right. She's not permitted to use makeup, or to comb. She needs to participate in the mourning of her husband. Elokoife mitosa, but rather she would also bend her bed in a low level. Beneheges imoy avelis, and she conducts with her husband mourning. That's this one brisa. So here it talks about a father-in-law and a mother-in-law, but it does not exclude specifically a brother-in-law. But the Tanya Idach, we also have another brisa. Elsewhere we learned, Afal Pisha Omru, Einoi Rashoyi Lokufes Ishte Lias Koicheles, the Lias Pekeses. Even though the rabbis said that when she's in mourning, uh, she doesn't have a right uh, to make her use makeup and comb her hair. However, be'emes omru, but they still said that mezeges loy es hakois, that um, she should still uh, give him, pour the cup, uh, pour his cup, mezeges loy es hakois, to pour the cup for him, and also uh, um, um, Matzas loy el mito, and she should spread out his bed. Umerachetzes leipon of yoda veraglo, and she washes his face, hands, and feet. So here we strictly see that he does not turn his bed over. In the previous brisa, it says that he needs to conduct himself mourning with her. In this brisa, we say that even though he cannot make her put on the perfume and comb her hair, but she should still pour him the cup and spread the bed. And if he's not supposed to be on the bed, a regular bed, how is she going to spread the bed? So it seems to be a contradiction. Kashyon ahadodi. So these two brises seem to be conflicting, contradictory. Here in the Bryce, it says that she will spread out his bedspread for him. In the first Bryce, it said that koifes mitose, that he bends his bed, he doesn't use his regular bed. So how are we going to reconcile this? So can we then not learn from here that it depends who? Kan, the first brisa that it says that he bends his bed is talking about the chomov v'chamoisoi. It's talking about his father-in-law and mother-in-law. And Kan, when we say that she spreads his bed, b'shar kroivim, on the other relatives. Over there, b'shar kroivi ishtoi, and the other relatives, matzas lemitose, then she would spread out his bed. So that's the distinction that the Gemara makes between these two cases, that if it's a father-in-law or mother-in-law, then he needs to participate. But if it's her other relatives, like in the case that it was his brother-in-law, he said to him, you don't have to participate in the morning with them. Of course, la halacha today, we don't rule like that because you don't have to participate in the sense, I mean, not to be joyous and things like that, but you don't shiva that your wife or your husband is sitting, a spouse sitting does not really apply to the spouse. And the Gemara brings another brisa to support this Tanya Namya.
Isn't the question more of uh it seems that the discussion's more around what are her obligations like to continue helping her husband rather while she's in mourning.
Well, that is in the case when she's in mourning with regards to him, but it also talks about uh that's what the second brisa is it, but it also talks about in the first brisa that uh she needs to participate with him, he needs to participate with her. The second brisa, yeah, talks about that she continues doing for him what what she does for him. Uh but uh um but from there we learn that he doesn't participate because if she's making his bed means that he's not bending over his bed. Why isn't he bending his bed? So it must be talking about another relative. So in the first brisa, which it says that you would bend your bed when your spouse is in mourning, does not apply when it's not a relative, when it's not a father or mother, but it's other relatives. As the Gemara says, B'shar kreve ishtaluk, as the Gemara brings the Brisa, when we say that to honor your wife, you should participate in her mourning, it's only as far as the father-in-law and the mother-in-law alone. Okay, so the Gemara continues to tell us that Meimar Shochiv Le Barbre. Meimar's son, his grandson died. Koroi Love, so he had rendered his garment when he heard about his grandson dying. Osabrei, so when his son came around, his son wasn't there. Korabape, so in front of his son, he rendered his garment again. Osabrei, when his son came, so Rashi says, Hodar Amemer Korabape Debrei. So Amemer went again and he rendered his garment in front of his son. And then later on, Itchar Amemer remembered the Miyushav Korah, that he was sitting when he rendered his garment. Kom Korah Me'umad. So he got up and he rendered his garment while he was standing. So that means a third time. Kom Korah Pam Shlishis. A third time. Once when he heard about it, the second time in front of his son, and the third time when he realized that he wasn't standing when he rendered his garment. Okay. Omar le Rabashi la Meimer. So Rabashi says to Ameimer, Kriya de Me'umed mi nolon. Where do we know that when you do Kriya, you have to be standing? Where does it say that you stand when you do Kriya? It says, Diksi, because the Pasuk in Iyov Perek Aleph says, Vayokom Iyov, when he heard the bad news, family dying over there, so he got up. Vayikras mi Eloi, he rendered his coat. So over there it says, he got up. Vayokom Iyov, Iyov got up. So you see that before he rendered, he got up. Okay. So that would mean you have to render. But the Gemara says that maybe it doesn't mean that he has to get up. Maybe it just says that he happened to get up, but maybe that's not a requirement that he has to get up. The Gemara challenges it because the Gemara finds another place in the pasuk when a person does not want to do the Levirate marriage. His brother died without any children. He doesn't want to marry his brother's wife. So the pasuk says that he gives chalitza. So this is what it says in the pasuk El Ma'ata in the Barim Chafei. The pasuk says, "Va'omad va'omar." He'll stand up and he will say, "Loi chafatzti lekachta." I don't want to marry her, and that's why he gives her chalitza. Then she does this, takes off her shoe, the whole process. She takes the shoe and then she spits. But nevertheless, the verse says he has to stand up and say, I don't wish to marry her. It says he stands up and he says. So the Gemara says, Hochinami. So here too, are you going to say that he must stand up? If he doesn't stand, because the verse says here, the verse says that va'amad va'amar. So Hochinami is here too. You're going to say it's not for Va'atanya, but the Mishnah says within the Braisa, Ben Yosef, Ben Oimed, Ben Muta, whether he's sitting, whether he's standing, whether he's leaning. In either way, if he says the chafasti, then he fulfilled the obligation. So the Gemara answers that there's a different language. Over there, the pasuk tells us as if a story. He says he gets up and he says verses that he stood up and he says he got up and he said. It's like a transpiring something that happened, but it doesn't say over here. It says he got up and Amar lay, he answered him. Hosam loy kesiv. Over there, the verse doesn't say vayamoit v'yomer. He should get up and he should say. It doesn't say that. Had it said that, then he would have to say. Over there, it just says, and he got up. He's telling you, he stood up and he said. It doesn't say he should get up. Here it says he stood up and he rendered. So the Gemara thinks that this is a more specific language that you have to stand up and do the Kriya. But the Gemara continues with the challenge. Amar Rami Bar Chama says, Rami Bar Chama, Minayin lekriya she Moed. Where do we know that Kriya is while you're standing? So he says, Shanamar, because the pasuk says, Vayokom iyu vayikra, he stood up and he rendered. And the Gemara says, Dilma Misa, you say to the maybe this was something extra. Who says that you have to? The fact that he got up, that was an addition. Maybe you don't have to get up to render your garment. But he got up, that's what he did. He did something extra. But how do you know that this is a necessity, that this is part of the requirement? Dilma Milsa Yisayr to maybe he did something extra. And the Gemara says, you know what? It actually makes sense that way. Because if you're not going to say so, it says in the pasuk that he got up, he rendered, and then it says Vayogus says Roishay, that he he shaved his hair. So Hochinami, are you going to say here too that we must shave our hair when we hear somebody died? Of course not. On the contrary, you're not allowed to take a haircut. So over there, he did something in addition. So maybe the fact that he got up was additional. How do you know that that's a requirement? So the Gemara brings another pasuk, El Malacha. It says in Shmuel Beis in Perek Yud Gimel. It says, Vayokom HaMelech Vayikra es begodov. The king got up and he rendered his garment. So you see again here also, I think that was when he told him that he's no longer going to be the king. I think when he told him that he's not going to be king anymore, so then he rendered his garment, and the but over there it says that uh, over there it says also. Actually, this was the story with Avishalom. Um, this was the story with Avishalom over there when he heard that he died and he was killed. So that's when he rendered his garment. And uh, but like the Gemara, Vidilma, again the same thing like before. Vidilma milso yiseir to Ovid. Maybe he did something more than he needed to do. That he got up, and the Gemara brings a proof also. If you're not going to say so, because it says further in Shmuel Beis in Perikut Gimel, it says Vayishkav Artso, that he laid on the ground. That's not a requirement. Hochinami, are you going to say that a person, when he does rendering, he has to go lie on the ground like uh, King David did, like David HaMelech did? V'otanya, but we learned in Abraisa that Yoshav al Gabi Mita, uh, if he sits on the bed, in other words, you don't have to lay on the floor. Uh, it says if you sit on a bed or you sit al gabe kise, on a chair, al gabe udaina, on an udaina. An udaina, Rashi says, machteshes gedoyla, that's a big grinder. You can sit on it. It such has a place to sit on it. You hadn't fulfilled your obligation. Gedoyla mekulan oru. They even said greater than this. Not only if you're sitting on something else, afilu al gabe karka, even if you should sit on the ground. Lo yotzu yidei chavasa, you have not fulfilled your obligation. And Rashi says, mekulam amru, afilu yoshan al gabe karka, lo yotzo. You haven't fulfilled your obligation, even if you sleep on the ground. You got to bend your bed and sit in. Again, the beds were used as a sitting place as well in the olden days, that mita. So you have to bend it over. That's like a lower stool that Oval sits on. So you can't even sit on the ground to fulfill your obligation. You got to sit in a small stool. So what does it mean you did not uh, fulfill your obligation? Which obligation? So uh, so he says, so why are we saying that he did extra because he got up and he rendered his garment? Because you don't have to sleep on the floor. Uh, so just like you don't have to sleep on the floor, you don't have to get up to render the garment. So the Gemara wants to prove that he was saying extra stuff over there. It doesn't really mean that, because it says that went on the ground, and we don't have to go on the ground. We can sit. You actually don't fulfill your obligation on the ground. And the Gemara says, Amar Lei, so he answered him, no. He said to the proof, because Ke'ein Arzo. When it says that he went on the ground over there, doesn't mean he actually literally went on the ground. The ground means he went on a low stool, that he turned the bed over. He went it, and he was sitting on close to the ground. So that's what he did. But therefore, you have to stand up, and there's nothing extra over there because he did everything you're supposed to. Because when it says that he went to the ground, it just means that he sat on a small stool, which is low to the ground. Amar Lei told him Kein Arzo Kloimar Shekofa Mitosei. He bent his bed, the Yoshev Aleho, and he sat on it. Ula Oilom Kriya Me'umad. Really, Kriya is Me'umad, like it says there. So we learn from there that Kriya is Me'umad, and there's not a contradiction. It's not extra because he didn't do anything extra over there. And even though it says he slept on the ground, it doesn't, or lie on the ground doesn't mean literally, it means turned over the bed. Tan Rabbana. Further, we learned in Abraisa. Elu devorim she'avil osur bahen. These are the items that a mourner is prohibited. Osur b'melacha, not allowed to do work. Berechitza, he's not a bathe. Ubesicha, not anoint. B'tashmish hamita, marital relationship. Ubenila sandla, wearing shoes. You got to wear sneakers. V'osur likris b'toiro ubenvim ubeksuvim. You're not allowed to read Torah Nevi'im u'Ksuvim. V'lishanos b'mishneh, b'medrash u'b'haloches u'b'agodes. And to learn medrash, haloches, and Talmud and agodes. Why is that? Let me see a second over here.
If they didn't wear shoes, I mean, they didn't have sneakers. What would they be
Wore the
barefoot?
socks.
Did
They
they have
wore the
socks?
socks. Yeah, that's what they were. It's called, yeah, Ne'ilas sandal was to uh, baloches ubahashas bagodis. Baloches says um fixes there. I don't know why they changed it, but so that is ubahashas. That's the way it's in the Gemara. Okay, Dr. Ashi. Also likris kidamrina li'il. As we say earlier, what do we know that the noble is not allowed to learn? The Gemara earlier in Daf Tezvav Amud Aleph said, "B'da'omar Rachmana liYecheskel hanegdoim." He told him that he should be silent. Hanegdoim means not to speak. That means he's talking about the words of Torah, not to speak words of Torah. V'hoda Omar, and the fact that we say in Sukkot Av Chofei Amud Aleph, Avul Chayiv V'chol Mitzvah Muras B'Torah, a mourner is obligated in all the Torah mitzvahs, chutz min tefillin. So it seems like he's obligated also in all mitzvahs. Torah is a mitzvah besides tefillin. Hasam shar mitzvahs ba'alma. Over there, he's talking about just other mitzvahs, not learning Torah. Aval hani, but all these mentioned, the Torah, Nevi'im, Ksuvim, is bu simcha, there is joy. So an Aval is not allowed to learn. However, if he was a teacher, if the many need him, he was a teacher that he would give the drasha. They need him to give the sermon. Then he doesn't have to hold back and he can go ahead and teach. The Gemara relates to Maisa was a story of Meiz B'noishel Rabbi Yosef B'Tzipori. That Rabbi Yossi's son died in Tzipori, so he was a mourner for his son. So he entered the study hall and he expounded all day, notwithstanding the fact that he was a mourner. Morris says another story. So you see that if the people need you, then it's okay. Rabbi Bar Chona Isra Be'milsa, something bad happened, he became a mourner. So he thought not to go to the chapter to go ahead and teach the Torah. So Chanina quoted from him, if the many need him, then you don't hold back, you continue to do it. Sovar le'ukme amoira alei. So once he's going to teach, he wasn't going to teach himself. He wanted to put down an amoira alei, which is a translator. The way the rabbis used to, the darshan, the way they used to say it softly, and then they'd have a maturgaman, another person, explain it, elaborate to the people. But he was going to put down an amoira for him to be metargim. But that's already too much, I guess, too much public display teaching and having the Beturgan, you got to do it a little bit lower profile by, if you need to teach yourself, that's what I think. Amalei Rav. So Rav told him, Tanya Bilvad Shaloi Ya Miturgaman. But you're not allowed to. You're allowed to teach, but don't make a Turgaman, the translator for you. So Velahechi of it. So how did he? So how should he do? The Gemara says, "Go the Tanya. Do it as we learned in the Braise." Maise ubeis benoish Rabbi Yehuda bar Eloi. It was a story that the son of Rabbi Yehuda bar Eloi died. V'nichnas lebeis hamedrash, and he, Rabbi Yehuda bar Eloi, entered the study hall. V'nichnas Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia v'yoshav b'tzidai. So Rabbi Chananya, the son of Akavia, sat down next to Rabbi Yehuda bar Eloi. V'lochash hu Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia. So he whispered to Rabbi Chaim ben Akavia, but Rabbi Chaim ben Akavia Luturgamon. So they made it a three. It's like on Shabbos, you use a kli shlishi, when you pour the water from one keli to the other. He said it to Rabbi Chaim ben Akavia. Chaim ben Akavia said it to the Turgamon. And the Turgamon Hishmiel Rabim. And the Turgamon said it to the men. Further, Tana Rabbanan. Ovel, a mourner. Gimel Yomim Horishonim, the first 3 days of mourning. Osur lahaniach tefillin, it's prohibited for him to put on tefillin. Of course, we only do it the first day while this person is the burial, but we don't. But mishlishi ve'elech, but starting from the third day and on, including ushlishi v'chlal, and including the third day, mutar lo niach tefillin, is allowed to put on tefillin. Shlishi bechlal, sagt Rashi, mutar laniach tefillin, and the reason is the ikar avelis ein elebeis yomim. Main mourning is only for 2 days. Ve'im bo ponim chadoshes ein echayletz. If a new face comes, then you don't remove the tefillin. What Rashi explains. The imponim chadoshes liyem gimel. So you might think that maybe there's somebody new who wasn't there before. Maybe he doesn't know that you didn't put on tefillin. He'll think you're putting on tefillin during the morning. Rashi. Still, you're not going to remove your tefillin. You're going to keep your tefillin. Even though maybe we should worry. They're going to say, well, he's putting on tefillin nami. Maybe put on the first days too. No, it doesn't matter. You can, third day, you put on the tefillin. You don't take off the tefillin. Divri Rabbi Elazar, this is the opinion of Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Yeshua says, Ovel beis yomim harishonim osur la'aniach tefillin. The first 2 days is prohibited. One second, I don't get it. 1 second. Rabbi Shua the Iker Avelus Eine Aliyah Mechel is 1 day. V'sheni B'chlal Mutter. So what does it mean? Hold on, I'm not getting this. Aval Beis Yom Rishonim Asur L'Haniach Tefillin. But we're saying that I don't get this. Hold on 1 second. I don't know. I don't understand what he's saying here. Yes, let's see what he says here. Where's this test go? I don't see this test. Oh, here. Just a footnote. I'm not understanding here. Uh, 1 second. I'm missing something here. I'm sure Eimer Ovel Beis Yomim Harishenim Osul Echt Tefillin. Let's go weiter. We'll see what happens. But basically, Rabbi Yeshua doesn't say. I'm sure Eimer Dikar Avel Senim Echad Misheni Visheni Bechlal Mutar Echt Tefillin. So starting with the second day, you could put on tefillin. So how do we translate? I don't know how to translate Beis Yomim Harishonim Osul Aniach Tefillin. If you're saying that, what is Beis Yomim Harishonim? What is the two first days? What is the first 2 days? And then it says the second days. I don't get it.
Are they the same person? Same
I don't
opinion?
get it. I don't know. All right, let me just see. I'll figure out next time what it is. I think it's something very simple missing here. By getting, I don't, I'm not getting it. Misheni v'sheni b'chlal from the second day and includes the second is mutter lahaniach tefillin. V'imbo upon chadoshes, but if a new face comes on the second day, v'yam sheni chayletz tefillin, then you do remove the tefillin because it's too. We suspect that he may think that you didn't, that you were wearing the tefillin the whole time. Omer Rav Masner says Rav Masner, my time the Rabbi Lezer. Why is his reasoning that he holds a sober ikar avelish nayomim? Why does he hold that main avelis is 2 days? Ksiv vayitmu yemei b'chi evil Moshe. It says in Pasuk and Dvarim that the days, plural for days, of Moshe's mourning finished. Vayitmu yemei the mashma beis yomim is mashma 2 days. Omer Rabbeinu, so in my time with Rabbi Yeshua, what is Rabbi Yeshua's reasoning? That it's 1 day, the ksiv, v'achriso ki yoim mar. The end is like the bitter day. It says a singular yom. For the Gemara of Rabbi Yeshua, nami yoksiv v'yitmo yimei v'gomer. But how is Rabbi Yeshua going to answer? It says yimei, which is a plural, v'yitmo yimei. Omar loch, he'll say to you, Shani Moshe, it's different. By Moshe, the Tokif Avela was a strong warning for Moshe Rabbeinu. But the pasuk still says kiyoymar, which says like tells us that it's only 1 day. And the Gemara answers ikemerir chad yemo. The main bitterness is 1 day, but the avelus is for 2. Ikemerir yem echad. Aval avelus beis yomim, but the avelus is for 2 days. Taka bitterness is for 1 day, but the avelus is taka for 2 days. Omar Ula says Ula. Halacha ki Rabbi Lezer b'chalitza. The halacha is like Rabbi Lezer b'chalitza, which means Yimbo Panim Chadoshes begimel einay chayletz, that you do not remove the tefillin on the third day. If a new person comes, v'halacha ki Rabbi Yeshua b'anocha, and the remains the halacha the b'sheni mutar l'neich tefillin that you're allowed to put on tefillin. V'halacha ki Rabbi Yeshua b'anocha. So uh, that's the both about the halachas like that. So I understand now what it means is before he says that you could do 2 days. When he said before, Shua Ovel Beis Yomim, or it should say, even though it says Osur Laniach Tefillin, he no. The word Osur is a little hard. I think maybe he says that he practices 2 days. Because here you see that he can do whichever way he wants. It says, "Vanocha shimbopam begimel einocha v'locher b'shua b'anocha." The b'sheni mutar laniach tefillin, that you're allowed to put on tefillin. But Rabbi Shua said also laniach tefillin shnei yom rishenim. So I don't know. Okay, iboy luhu b'sheni luhu lachayletz. What is the halacha? Which means b'shlishi kol mar halacha karabelazar domer eina chayletz. Avu b'sheni lo yadayni chayletz iloy. But we don't know on the second day does he remove the tefillin, which that's what Rabbi Yeshua said. Uh, so according to Rabbi Yeshua Yerchoilis, but what about according to halacha? Who's the halacha like? He says ain't Yerchoilis, but b'sheni we do not know. Chayletz ain't chayletz. Tashma, learn. Amar Ula says chayletz umaniach afilu me'apamim. What does that mean? Chayil mafil me'apamim. Dr. Rashi, chayletz umaniach b'sheni afilu me'apamim b'yom. On the second day, so when a new person comes, he can take off and then he puts on again, even 100 times. When a new face comes, he takes it off. He puts on. So Ulo says that you do, you take off and you put on. But so the halacha is like on the second day that you are chayletz. Tamir nami hachi. Yehuda ben Tema, Yehuda ben Tema says, chayletz umaniach afilu peim pamim. You take off and put on even 100 times. Rava Omar. But the Rava says, Kimun she'niach shuvein nechel. Once you put it on, you don't remove it anymore. Rava Omar kivshin b'sheini shuvein nechel is upon mechadoshes. You're not gonna, once you put on, you're not gonna take it off because a new face comes again. Rava Leil, Rashi said, "B'kfis amita aloch getan dedan domer gimel yom iker, domer gimel yom iker avelus. Hochinam in the boy gimel yom nichfilin. So how come it doesn't work out to? Okay, the Gemara says, "Hu domer aloch getan dedan, the Omar shloisho." The Gemara answers mitzvah shining. Okay, we'll have to finish it up next time. Over here. We went on, I didn't prepare the next page yet. So we'll leave it over here. We'll go over this piece of Gemara next time again. Just want to share something for Hanukkah. We're almost done. We're at the 7th night of Hanukkah, almost the 8th night of Hanukkah. And I guess one of the messages of Hanukkah is that the simpleness is that even in situations which seem very difficult, the light overpowers the darkness, and Hashem brings us salvations in various different situations. You know, today, of course, we also need the Eibishter's salvation. We say, "Bayomi Mahem Bizman Hazeh." But one of the things we see, we have to always increase. Every day we light a little more. The first, second, third, every day we increase more in the mitzvahs. Ma'alim b'kodesh. When it comes to holy matters, we always do more. Never satisfied with what we did the day before. And, what would be, for example, just a teaser, there's various different questions. Let's say, if a person, he's at the third night of Hanukkah, and he only has oil for 2 days. He has oil for 2 candles. He doesn't have enough oil. So it turns out that he's not going to be able to light three. On the third night, he has to light three, but he's not going to have three. He doesn't have enough oil for three. Should he light two or should he light one? So then you say, well, of course, light two. Why? Because at least you're not going to do less. It's two things. We say one should always increase and one shouldn't do less. But what happens in another situation? Let's say tomorrow is the eighth night of Hanukkah, and he lit every day, but he ran out of candles. He's coming to light the menorah. Uh, he only has the last night of Hanukkah. He only has six. Only has left. Today they buy these boxes they have for every day, or a candle for every day. Only six left. So how many should he light? Should he light? If he lights six, then he'll be going down from yesterday. Yesterday he lit seven, and now he's going to be lighting six. Not only is he not going to increase, he's going to go down. Maybe he should just light one, because if he lights one, then at least he's just doing the mitzvah. He's not doing. Originally, the mitzvah was to light one candle for everyone. You don't need every day more. This was added later on. But maybe lighting one is better than lighting six, because six, you're doing less than the day before. If you're lighting one, you're doing like the main mitzvah. And that's a possibility. There's also an issue: uh, is every day that we light more lamps, are they part of the mitzvah of the lighting, or they're just a person is doing it better, but it's nothing not to do with the lighting? It really goes through. There's different reasons why we light more. There's different opinions. These are all the differences. The bottom line is we should always increase, and we should always know that, notwithstanding that the situation, how bleak it looks, and it looks desperate, but Hashem is always there for us. And just like He protected us then, He'll protect us now. We'll celebrate the miracle of Hanukkah until we'll have the lighting of the Beis Hamikdash, literally, to be able to light the menorah with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu. Okay, we'll leave it over here today. Wish everybody a good Chodesh. Wish everybody a good Hanukkah. And see everybody again, Mitzvah Shem, next year.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Thank you.